I have a great update today. I'm so excited. Let's get to it. Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel. Today I have 1001 book countdown for you. It's been a few weeks since I've done a countdown. I've been traveling on vacation and it's just not very easy sometimes to put up the graphics that I like to do for the countdown. So sorry, it's been a little bit since my last check-in. If you are not familiar with the 1001 book countdown, I will leave a card up here for you where you can go and check out the original video. But basically, I'm reading books off of the 1001 Books You Must Read Before You Die list, and I'm slowly working my way through it. So it's starting to get exciting as I near the end of the year. So hopefully you consider giving me a subscribe and sticking with me on my journey to see how far I actually make it through this enormous list. But I'm still having a lot of fun and hope that you continue with me on my journey. But for today, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put up the numbers, which are 9, 13, and I've forgotten already, 18. 18 represents the books that I pre-selected at the beginning of the year. That's the number I have left. I pre-select 52 books, and then those are the ones I tend to try and focus on as I'm reading throughout the year. So it's getting close. We're getting close to single digits. We're getting close to 100 books off the countdown. So many exciting things. But for today, the first book that I'm going to talk about was my book club pick for September for the 1001 Book Club, which I host over on Discord. And that book was The Dispossessed by Ursula K. LeGuin. This book was originally published in 1974 and was the winner of the Hugo and the Nebula Awards. I've not actually heard of those prizes. This is one of 7 of the Hamish novels that LeGuin wrote. LeGuin is considered a very well-respected science fiction writer, and this particular book, I really wanted to go into it and love it, and I was disappointed. I'm so sorry to say that. I wanted to love this book. This book follows a character whose name is Shavik and is told in 2 different timelines. One when he's on one planet and one when he's on another planet, and it was just a struggle for me to care about the different worlds and what he was going through and what he was talking about. And it seemed very political in places. It seemed very I don't know, it was for me disjointed because of it going back and forth so much. It pulled me right out of the story, made it really hard for me to focus on it, and I was just so disappointed. I wanted to love it. I did. I wanted to love it. I have one more book by Ursula K. Le Guin called The Left Hand of Darkness, so I will be reading that, but that one is not on the countdown. This is the only one that was on the countdown, so I am disappointed. I don't know if you've read any other Ursula K. Le Guin's. Are there ones? Is The Left Hand of Darkness better than this one? Is this one that you read and you loved? Like, what did I miss with this book? Because it was such a struggle for me, and I'm so disappointed. But I hate it when I don't like the books that I've read, but it was on the countdown. So with this book, we do get to go from 913 to 912, and it was on my 2022 list, so I'm going from 18 to 17. Great. Moving on. Thankfully, the other 2 books were much more successful for me in the month of September for the countdown books. And the first one is one I have been reading for the last few months. You've seen it several times if you watch my channel, and that is Kristin, Lavransdatter by Sigrid Undset. This version was translated by Tina Nunali. This book was originally published in 1920, 21, and 22. It was 3 books that they've put together in this absolutely beautiful edition. But this one is a Penguins Classic edition, and so they put the 3 books together in this single copy, in the single bind up. Tina Nunali's translation was in 1997 to 2000, and this, from what I understand, is one of the most readable versions of this particular book. Okay, this book is broken into 3 different parts. The parts are called, I wrote it down on the back, The Wreath, The Wife, and The Cross. It is set in Norway, and it is following the main character whose name is Kristin. Kristin Lavransdatter. Her father's name is Lavrans. I thought that was also really interesting how the names are done. It's Lavransdatter, Erland's son, that kind of stuff. I thought that was really interesting as well because it kind of helped you keep the family in order. But Kristin is very young at the start of this novel, and she is betrothed to a person named Simon, and things go wrong for her right at the very beginning. And I don't want to spoil the book for people, so I'm going to keep the details pretty light in here. But basically the book is Kristin having to deal with the choices that she makes when she is very young for the rest of her life. And some things are outside of her control, but they all kind of map back to the very beginning. Kristin herself is incredibly hardworking, is honest, is, she's one of those characters that you are rooting for and want to do well. And I loved reading about her. I loved the first couple parts of the book better than the very last one, which is called The Cross. But yeah, there's also moments in this book that I was reading along, just kind of enjoying the story, and then I got smacked upside the head with something just brutal that might happen or tragic that might happen. It was amazing though. It was so heart-wrenching in parts. It was beautifully written, easy to follow. I mean, this is a chunker of a book. This is, how many pages is this? I don't even know. 1,100 page book, which was my friend Sonia and I read over a period of 3 months, and I never got bored with it. It does get slow in a couple of places, but I never was like, oh, I don't want to read that book anymore. I just can't read it. I adored it. I really am in love with Kristin. It's probably going to end up on my favorites list of 2022. I would highly recommend this book. I also would recommend kind of taking your time with it and just sinking into the characters and enjoying their story, because that's really all this is Kristin's growing up, getting married, having children, dealing with everything going on in her life. And yeah, it is brutal in parts though, but so well done. I wish I could say more spoilery things about it, but if you haven't read this, I would highly recommend picking it up. I fell in love with Kristin quite a bit in this story, and yeah, I love it. I don't know how to express how much I enjoyed it, so I'm repeating myself. But Kristin Lavransdatter, very successful, easily a 5-star read for me. I think right now on Goodreads it's a 4 because I was going to put it at 4.5. And the more I think about it, I just need to make it a 5-star. I don't know why I'm being so stingy with it. Easily that with this book, one of my favorites so far of 2022. But with this book, we do get to go from 9/12 to 9/11, and it was on my 2022 list, so we get to go from 17 to 16. Getting there. But I have one more book for you. One more book for you. So excited. The third book on the countdown for the month of September is Home by Marilynne Robinson. This book is the second book in the Gilead Quartet. This book was published in 2008, and features a family. It is the carry-on of the story that was written in the Gilead. So if you haven't read Gilead, I highly recommend you read that first. But this follows the father who was a reverend, the one daughter whose name is Glory, and one son whose name is Jack. And Jack comes home for a visit after 20 years of being absent. And it is so heart-wrenching, this book. It takes a minute. Like when I first started reading the book, I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it through this book. This is going to be just super difficult for me to read. And then the more I read, the more Jack comes out, the more you hear of his story, the more you hear of Glory kind of in her witnessing his current life at home. It just was making me just all the feels. Absolutely. There's a great line in this book that really describes Jack's kind of mental state in it. And it says in here, Jack said, I think hope is the worst thing in the world. I really do. It makes a fool of you while it lasts. And then when it's gone, it's like there's nothing left of you at all, except what you can't be rid of. I mean, that line is just, it's very enigmatic of the entire book and that just despair and melancholy that is sitting over this house. The father is not doing well. The daughter is caring for him quite a bit. Jack is starting to see all of that. It is just one of those books that I was like, oh, I wanted it to turn around and be this happier book, and that just unfortunately doesn't happen. But it is wonderfully written book, absolutely beautiful. And once I got into it, I had trouble putting it down. I really did. It was one that I'm very much considering reading the third book, which is called Lila, and there's a fourth book, which is called Jack. I am most intrigued by Jack. He seems to be the character in this book that has like the biggest arc, the most problems, difficulties, and challenges. And I just want to hear more. I want to hear what happens to him. I want to know after this, what happens with Jack. So, but Home by Marilynne Robinson, I was enthralled. I really was. It was a beautifully written book. Again, I would recommend reading Gilead. And then this one, I read Gilead last year. So for me, that was almost too long of a stretch. I wish I had read them closer together. So if you read them, maybe read them a little bit closer together than a year apart. This is the only one of the quartet that's actually on the countdown, though, being Home. So, but with this book, we get to go from 910 to 909. Even with the numbers right in front of me, I can't keep track of them. I'll go from 911 to 910. Moving on. Woo! And from 16 to 15. And that's the last book I have on the countdown. I mean, 15 books now. I have 3 months, 5 books a month. A couple of the books I'm worried about. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. The other thing is, what am I working on right now from the countdown? The one book I did not finish off of my September TBR was The Circle by Dave Eggers. There's a bookmark in here, but it's sadly only on page 25. I just started reading this after I got home from vacation. It wasn't one of the books I picked up while I was traveling, and I'm not in love with it yet. I am still trying to figure out what the whole story will be about. I have seen this movie, so I have a little bit of an inkling of what the book is about, but I was not able to finish it before the countdown. So this one will show up hopefully in the next countdown, The Circle. And then the last book that I have started is actually my book club pick for October, and that is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I'm already on chapter 5, 50 pages in after one day. I am really getting interested in this one as well. So many people left comments saying that they love this book, that they're excited about reading this book. People have left comments on the Discord channel and on Instagram about this book. Yeah, it's really been so far a wonderful read. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I don't think I'll have any problem finishing this book at all this month, where a couple of the other ones, I don't know, we'll see. Outside of that, I am still finishing Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, and you can see I have a bookmark in here. I don't have much left of this. I'm loving this book. This one is probably also, spoiler, going to end up on my favorite books of 2022 because this is the book I'm reading as my reward when I finish some other reading that is difficult. So yeah, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. And I think that's it. That's all I have. I know, but 3 books off of the countdown. I guess that's for almost all of September, though. So it's not that amazing of a reduction, but I'm creeping up on 100 books read off of the countdown since I started my channel. That is incredible. I can't wait to hit that milestone. I'm only 7 books away. It looks like it's going to happen in October or first part of November. That is so incredibly thrilling. And yeah, I'm just having a blast. So I'm going to get back to my reading, and as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, thanks, bye.